ήρθατε στο τρίτο Meetup του Ministry of Testing της Αθήνας. Από εδώ ο Νίκος Καρδός, ο Γιώργος ο Καλβόπουλος και ο Μόγκας Πλογιάννης. Στο σημερινό Meetup, όλες οι παρουσιάσεις γίνουν στα αγγλικά, επειδή έχουν προσκυνούν από Αγγλία. So, let's switch to English now. The basic subject today is called "Is test causing your life problems?" from Gwen Diagram. I would like to welcome Gwen here in Athens. Thank you for joining us. Then we have three light talks. Cypress in 10 minutes by John Chevros, Be Flexible with Selenium by Los Romanas, and Automation Space Trip Day 724, that's a cool title, by Benny Cochran. Before we start, Giorgos will remind you of how you can become member of our community, and Nikos will give you further details about our job board. Welcome to all of you. Let's share some knowledge and have some fun.
Okay, welcome from me as well. I'd like to remind you all that we're all trying to build a community here in Greece, but not only in Greece. And I personally like to thank Gwen that is coming here from Ministry of Testing from UK, from Leeds, here today. I'd like to welcome everyone and ask all of you if you want to speak at one of the meetups, want to become a volunteer, want to sponsor, because okay, nothing happens without sponsors these days. Please join us, look at the links, fill in the forms, and we'll get back to you, okay? The last thing I want to say before I pass the microphone on to Nikos is I'd like to remind you all of our URLs where you can find us. You can find the Ministry of Testing master site on the top, our own Meetup page where we publish upcoming meetups, photographs, discussions, everything. Of course, you can always chat up on us on Slack. Not only us here in Greece, because we have our own channel here, Athens Meetup, but also you can find all people from Ministry of Testing, the full team, everybody, from all the community, from all the world. And finally, if you want to take a look and contact us with a forum or find an outside posting, let's say, you can look at the cloud of Ministry of Testing. And now passing on to Nikos to discuss a little bit about the job board.
Welcome to the third Ministry of Testing. When we started this meetup, one of our main objectives was career coaching, jobs, etc. So we're planning a lot of things regarding this aspect in the coming meetups, and we have started already by initiating a job board. The job board can be currently accessed through the Meetup platform, so it's a little bit hidden, and we are working to make it more upfront. A lot of things we have planned. We have currently 19 testing jobs from 11 different companies. We try to maintain and keep it most up to date, and it's totally free to post jobs from the sponsors. As I said before, we are working towards to have a lot of sessions in the next meetups about jobs and career coaching and everything to help new testers or to progress with their career. Now I would like to thank our sponsors. We couldn't do it without you. Thank you very much. Of course, the Ministry of Testing, the Test PR, Trust Greece, which is the main sponsor, Agile Actors, which keeps supporting us, and People Per Hour, There and Grow, for that is hosting, it's always open to host one of our meetups, and of course the Indigo with the magnificent cocktails that you are going to enjoy later on. Now I would like to invite the stage Gwen.
amazing to be here. So I've never been to Athens before. I've been to Santorini, but never Athens, and the chaotic nature of your traffic makes me really happy. I love chaos, so it's beautiful. So my name's Gwen Diagram. I'm Principal Test Engineer at Sky in Leeds in the UK. I'm originally Australian, so I've got a bit of a weird accent now. And yeah, so a little bit about me. As I said, I work at Sky. I'm one of the co-organisers of the Leeds Testing Atelier. So Leeds Testing Atelier is a little conference in Leeds. It's really punk rock, really LGBT friendly, and basically we shout a lot and we drink a lot and we talk about testing, of course. So lots of people from all over come now, which is really cool. I also organise, the Ministry of Testing Leeds. So that's just started as well. It's not as big as this one. This one's really amazing. And yeah, so I speak all over Europe. I did my first keynote this year at Agile on the Beach over in Cornwall in the UK, which was really exciting. And I'm speaking at Agile Greece tomorrow. I'm talking about how I won with automation there. So, just so we're all on the same page here, I have no idea what you call your test environments. Generally, I'm speaking about the test environment you do all the donkey work on. So, performance testing, acceptance testing, load testing, all of that kind of stuff. If you've got more than one of those, that's totally cool. Just imagine that I'm talking about your last environment before you hit live. So, the time has come. You can get that code into production. It doesn't matter what your continuous deployment model looks like, whether you're going the full extreme programming route of checking in, running tests and going straight to live, or if you're waking up at 2 a.m. Ready to deploy code in the office with a bunch of other devs at 3 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes a deploy to live just doesn't go as planned. And you find yourself asking, what the hell has gone wrong? You've tested it, it should be okay. Right? Well, sometimes not so much. If it's a website, it just doesn't work. What the hell are you getting 500 errors? 404, sometimes 418 on a fucking teapot. IIS is exploding and you need to restart it. You've got services refusing to start. The code just seems to work a bit differently. And after a while, the website just grinds to an absolute halt. You've got database performance peaking all over the place and errors in the logs that you just haven't seen before. So I'm going to be going through a few common reasons why the issues weren't seen or just didn't exist in test. Starting with, how closely does your test environment actually match live? So sometimes people treat their test environments like a pet. It's fragile, it's lumped together with the old blades that you found out the back. And there's no way that you can be running the same jobs on it as you are in live. If you're missing some chunks of the system because you can't run that cron job in test, holy shit, you're going to encounter yourself some issues when you make it to live. Sometimes this isn't the case at all. You found new shiny technology, and fuck, it is so easy to spin up a new test environment using Docker. That's really cool, but are you using Docker or Puppet or any of that other cool shit in live? Well, if your architecture and how you spin it up in test is fundamentally different, you're going to encounter some problems when you hit live. That you probably won't have predicted either. So, first off, are you performance testing in test? If you're not, there's some easy ways to start. Get some external servers monitoring your test environments, and you barely need to lift a finger. So it's the easiest way to see if a piece of code has some disastrous effects. Load testing, well, it's a little bit more difficult. You'll have to see some stats, and the best place to get that is off live. If your company doesn't know how many people are hitting the live website, well, you've got bigger problems than your test environment. But if you don't know personally, find out. Start speaking to people and find out who actually knows so you can start testing. So, gone are the days where you need to wait for a separate team to run your performance tests for you. If you're still relying on a separate team to spin up those load runner test runners, look into see how you can actually simplify it. There's a lot of open source performance testing tools at the moment that are really easy to set up. So one of the ones that I really like is K6. It's JavaScript, and you can get it running really early in your deployment pipeline. So you can run them locally as well and hook them up to CI, unlike Load Runner where you need special Windows machines and stuff like that. It's getting a lot easier, and you can spin it up in Docker. So, do you ever have a penetration tester test your stuff like once a year, and they come back and there's so many problems that they've found, but the problems might have been really easy for you to find yourself? So, you can look into early security testing for this. You can look at tools such as OWASP, which you can really easily run against your website and check out the logs. So once you've looked into the logs and identified any issues, you can hook it into your CI and then run it upon check-in. Security testing isn't just for the penetration testers, you can do it too. So to find out more about security testing, because it's a bit of black art, there's some really cool open source workshops and capture the flag stuff. So you can run that at your work and teach people about it as well, without too much knowledge, because it's all open source, they give you the knowledge. So Juice Shop is a really good one of these. If you want more information on that and how to run it, give me a shout and I can share all the stuff with you. So how many people are actually hitting your live website? Could test handle that? A couple of years ago, I was on a client site, and the test environments were just in an unbelievable state. I never got close enough to them to be able to understand exactly what was wrong, but the devs seemed to have to rebuild them every single time they did a deployment, which is a really bad smell. So after each deployment that the developers did, the testers were really excited because they finally had a website to test, and we hadn't for ages. And so we'd go mad hitting this website. And after an hour, the environment would just go down. So it kind of smelled like a database issue, and it totally was. So the database connections were limited to 100. So keep configs in source control. It wasn't 100 in live, why the hell was it in test? So keep it in source control and deploy the same thing to each environment. So sometimes your test environments can get pretty messy. Most software has dependencies, but sometimes this really gets out of hand and you end up with monolithic environments where people need to queue to get onto the test environment to make sure that their software doesn't break any of their other dependencies. Spend some time getting rid of this, all of these dependencies, because if test is like this, then live must be an absolute nightmare. And if you don't have time, instead of waiting around for the environment to become free, start building your own environments with a list of similar dependencies and mock out the ones that you don't really need. Figure out exactly how the software works, and then what breaks and when things don't exist that you can mock out, and you can break it down on a later date. Only use the monolith for performance and load testing. Sort yourselves out. And always test rollback. So it's really great being able to go live with your code, but sometimes when things get really hairy, it's best to just forget about it and roll back and try again later after you've sorted it out. Knowing that you can actually roll back makes life a hell of a lot easier. Make sure that before you go live, you can revert to a known state, and this includes databases. So, on the topic of databases, how recently have you restored your database? So, I'm going to tell you a story. A long time ago, I was working with a CRM absolute piece of shit that made the database really, really difficult to restore from live. So it took absolute days, like 3 days, for the developers to be able to sync the environments up after restoring the database. So, of course, because it took so long, they didn't bother. Didn't happen. And the developers that I was working with had just discovered Entity Framework. This was quite a few years ago. Are there any DBAs here that have had fun with Entity Framework? Cool. So if you aren't from C# land, basically what Entity Framework was made for was it's to fuck with your DBAs. So this was before my company had started its agile journey. So this release had taken 8 months. you'd fucking slap someone if they told you a release was going to take 8 months now. Like, that's not acceptable. So developers had been writing all their entity framework queries, and they were so happy. They were doing everything back to list for stick. So they didn't have to write any SQL anymore. They could just pull everything back to list and all this kind of stuff. And they were deploying it all to the test environment. So due to the size of the data in the test environment, it seemed to work okay. I'd go on the pages, and I didn't have performance testing at the time. So, you know, everything seemed to work. So after this, we went in at 6 a.m. for the deployment. We usually did deployments on the weekend, but we thought it would be really fun to do this one at 6 a.m. So I don't like waking up early, like I was talking before, and 9:30 is an appropriate time to get to work, not 6 a.m. So we'd have a short amount of downtime, and then we'd be up and running before 9 a.m. So we deployed, and then slowly IIS starts freaking out. And it needed to be restarted every 10 minutes. The database queries were so huge because these developers were pulling everything back to list that IIS was running out of memory constantly and falling over. So we should have caught this in test. But we didn't, because we weren't monitoring tests the same way as live. We weren't restoring databases. There was a lot of things we weren't doing. And we hadn't refreshed the database for a year. So we were at work for 12 hours trying to fix this because we couldn't roll back. We didn't know how to roll back. And there was tears and vomiting, like literal vomiting from the stress, because we just had to fix forward. So fixing forward, it's often required. Sometimes you need to do it while you're on call as well, which can cause a problem because at 2 a.m. you're probably not going to check stuff back in. Make sure that it's easy for the live team to check in any code changes or configuration changes that they've had to make to the live system. Otherwise, next time you deploy, they're going to get overridden. And you sure as hell won't be testing against them in test. So monitor your test environment like it is live. Keep an eye on your database, your API, your web and servers, and make sure that everyone can actually access it as well. Don't wake up your live team with these issues though, because they don't care. They've got the live thing to look at. And most of you are probably on call as well now, so you probably don't care about your test environment freaking out either. But ensure that people are notified the next day that test has been encountering some issues. So a lot of the time, monitoring is thought of a tool for the infrastructure team. Well, it used to be. And to be able to understand the effect that changes have had on your system, it's really important for you to use monitoring as a tool to observe your system. So if a release is put into the test environment and you're notified of a change in the system, you can make a change early to ensure that the ill effect on the system doesn't actually make its way all the way up to live. Or easily see a change in the system that has improved performance. You know, it's not all bad. Sometimes you can be like, yeah, we fixed something. Infrastructure monitoring is visibility of how your host is performing, being CPU, load, memory, etc. So it can be hosted yourself or be software as a service. And the important thing to do with this data is to make it really visible. Display these statistics around the office so you can quickly identify if something's occurred, not only in live, but your test environments, because that's a heartbeat. That's how you're going to figure out if shit's going to go wrong in live. So if something's fishy in the test environments, then it's most likely going to end up as an issue in live as well. So a lot of cloud applications have monitoring inbuilt, or platforms, which makes life a lot easier, but sometimes they can be really difficult to set up. Before I started at a startup I worked at, a contractor had spent 6 weeks trying to get application insights set up on Azure. If something's that difficult to set up, fuck it, use something else. So sometimes using the easiest thing is better. Also, a problem with cloud platforms is some software as a service monitoring platforms just don't support your service yet either. And another company I was at, I was using Azure again. And I was speaking to a company that promised to monitor all of our microservices. Problem is everyone does it for AWS, but Azure is usually lagging behind, so people will try and sell you shit. That doesn't work. So make sure that you sort out a trial and use your test environment to sort out that trial and remove it when you're done, because this shit can have an effect on your system as well, like performance-wise. So with database monitoring, there's quite a few key metrics that need to be monitored. So performance, space, SQL agent jobs, backups, long-running queries, and mirroring and replication. So understanding how your database is working in test is going to make your DBA's life a lot easier in live. So make sure you give people that kind of monitoring. It's kind of a respect thing as well, like respecting your colleagues, giving them the ability to actually observe the system. So with API monitoring, don't just do it in a live check. So use the same calls that you're using for testing. So if you've got calls that are likely to be chained together, test that as well. The workflow itself may not work. Don't forget to monitor response times. An API that's responding in 15 seconds instead of 2, that's probably an issue. And set up these calls in test and then move your monitoring to live as well. Run journey checks instead of just acceptance tests. So with web monitoring, you can check HTTP status codes, performance, domain name, expiry, and SSL. Make sure you check this in test as well in live. So it's easy to monitor this kind of stuff with a service such as Status Cake. If you're a little startup and you don't have access to all the other tools, there is some really easy stuff you can get started with. So keep an eye on your logs as well, because you might have already had the issue in test, but if you're not actually looking at your logs, how are you going to know? So instead of just having the live monitoring displayed about the office, have the test environment logging displayed and easy to reach as well. If you aren't paying the same attention to your test environments as live, then you'll probably push those issues up to live that you haven't actually seen in test because you haven't been paying attention. So how often is it that one of your test servers runs out of space because you've been performing a large load test on it? Hopefully not, but this actually happened to me quite recently. We had a box where log rotation wasn't working correctly for a while, and on the staging servers where we do all the performance testing, which caused the software to grind to an absolute halt, as the boxes had just run out of space, which log rotation is really important, and have the same config on all your servers. If you're rotating stuff on live, rotate it on test as well. You wouldn't want that to happen in production, and you don't want it to happen on your test servers either. Look at how much space you have on your box, and although you will hopefully be passing your logs onto an aggregation box, you still want to keep some logs on the servers so you can investigate a server if you need. And it's really common practice to keep about a week's worth of logs on your box, but it depends on your system and how you'd like to set it up. So if you're using a CDN in live, but you're not in test, the website's going to perform really differently in different parts of the world. So set the CDN up and performance test from different locations. It's easy to do with an external monitoring tool such as Status Cake, Pingdom, or whatever your choice. So I worked for a startup where we had quite a few performance issues from China. And we couldn't really figure out why until we logged on from, I think we ended up with a Chinese server that we logged on from. And because Google is banned in China, it was waiting for Google to load, and so it'd time out after 30 seconds and then eventually load. So check where your customers are and check that it actually works for your customers. So treat your environment like their cattle. Start with your test environment, destroy it and rebuild it. Make sure that you can destroy your test environment and rebuild it when you wish. Look into some really fun tools. There's some really cool stuff to do this. Once you're confident, move to your production environment, spin up production boxes and destroy them. But make sure that you can actually rebuild them when you need. If you've got a flaky deployment, might not be a problem. You can just trash that box and rebuild. So once you've got a really easily deployable environment, look into how to fuck it up. So we've all heard of the majestic Chaos Monkey. Has anyone here actually used Chaos Monkey or any of the permutations that it has? You have?
I only heard about it.
Yeah, I haven't
Sounds
gotten
really
to use
scary.
it. It sounds amazing. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So when you're brave enough, start running some craziness in your test environment once you know that you can actually spin stuff up again. Finding issues in test and knowing how to fix them is a hell of a lot easier than finding them in live and trying to fix them at 4 a.m. So you're not quite there yet. You've still got a queue for test environments. You've got a monolithic suite of applications that all need to work together, and it's a complete ball of mud. And you just need to get on the environment, do your testing, roll back, and get off. That's totally fine. It takes ages to get there. And just manage it properly. Clean up after yourself, never leave the environment broken, and have respect for your environment and your colleagues needing to use it. So, versioning. Make sure you know exactly what piece of software is where, especially with shared test environments. So this can get more difficult with making deployments more difficult with you've got deployed and then you've got live with feature flags and stuff like that. Make sure that you've got a good way to manage your feature flags. So, and make sure you are deploying exactly what you want to live with the software that you have tested against. If a downstream system's on an older version, then you tested with, things are going to go boom. Display the versions and take notice before you deploy. So, a couple of years ago, I was at a startup where I had really quite a few of these problems. Our test environments were fine, they worked. We had blue-green deployments. We had our continuous delivery set up so you couldn't pass test to get straight to live. It worked really well, besides what the company was trying to build, but that's why we got liquidated and I don't work at a startup anymore. Anyway, if you use Azure, staging slots are really easy to set up. And if something does go wrong, you can back out easily. In other jobs, we use load balancers to deploy to one box and then switch to the other box, well, loads of boxes. So once it works on both, go fully live. There's going to be countless ways to tackle this problem in your environment. See how you can, and yeah, try and push for active-active, although it's a lot harder than it seems. So, in the end, sometimes you deploy and things just fuck up. Might not be an environment issue. It might be that you missed something in test, but it's not just you that missed something in test, it's everyone. So the developers, the testers, and maybe even like the product owners. So, you know what? Most of the time, it's going to be fine. You can roll back, or make sure that you can roll back and quickly fix issues. And if you have a minor fuck up, you should be able to fix it quickly. It doesn't matter too much in the end, unless you're working on aeroplanes. So, that's me. Thanks for having me. Any questions? Oh, this one there.
Sorry, could you expand a bit on the Chaos Monkey, because it's the first time I hear about it.
So Chaos Monkey is by Netflix. They've done a few more. So there's Chaos Gorilla or something as well. So Chaos Monkey turns off servers. It jumps on AWS and like deletes boxes, screws with network connections and stuff like that. I think it's Chaos Gorilla turns off entire data centers. So it's checking that your application can handle stuff like that. So yeah, it's really cool, but I haven't gotten to use it yet. Hopefully I will. I'm still so the current project, we still don't have DR, so we're working on DR, so yeah. Anyone else?
Hello, I'm Jens from People Per Hour, and I would like to ask you, if you had just one advice to give, what would that be?
Having working DR is pretty good. That helps, and having active-active so you can deploy to one and then check if it works and then deploy to the other. yeah, probably that. Yeah. Right, I'm gonna get a selfie. It's exciting. Thank you.
Thank you, Gwen. While Yannis is setting up, I'd like to talk a little bit more about the Chaos Monkey. One of the things that Netflix actually had a problem with, they had a problem at some point with some servers going off at the East Coast. Suddenly, it originally started with a problem that started on a Friday afternoon, a time where everybody is going home and wants to look at Netflix, so it was the really worst possible moment to have that problem. This is why they said, okay, we are supposed to have this infrastructure that allows us to take things down, start things up. Okay, it's time to test this. And they started actually testing it right on their live. So Chaos Monkey is actually running on the live system. They are taking servers off from the live system and see if the whole infrastructure can respond. And then they, as Gwen said, they went up and created a Gorilla one that takes the whole data center off. They have a Railroad one, I don't know, takes even supporting data centers or and see what happens. Can they really take a full area of the United States without Netflix? Without wait. So that was the idea. Okay, now it's time to welcome John. I'd like to remind to all of you that on live talks we do not take questions in the end. Just find Yannis, Yorgos and Penny later on at networking that we can talk with them later. Okay?
Hi all. I'm Yannis Serdos, front-end developer from Trustees. And I'll do my best. I have 10 minutes to show you Cypress, which is an end-to-end testing framework. I also have a terrible toothache, so be gentle. So, for those people who like agenda stuff, I'm trying to cover as much as I can on what is Cypress, some of its best features, what you can actually do with it, and hopefully we will have some time for a demo. So, Cypress is an end-to-end testing tool, much like Selenium, this kind of stuff. It actually opens a real browser and you can start doing things there and check if things exist. A typical end-to-end testing tool. It has a lot of nice features, especially the time traveling features and the snapshot features. They are great. I'll try to cover them. It's very developer friendly. It's a JS-based tool, so you can easily install it with NPM, and you can write all your tests using JavaScript. And generally speaking, it's easy to learn it as well. Probably the killer feature of Cypress is the automatic waiting, what it says. Whatever you write on the test it's an actual command. So it creates a queue. Cypress behind the scenes creates a huge queue with commands and running them as sync. So it's really nice because you don't have to do things like wait for this endpoint to respond, or wait for this div to appear sometime in the future in order to test something, and do the actual testing. So Cypress does all that for you behind the scenes using this command and queue. So you don't really have to care about the async hell. You forgot the async hell, and makes all the assertions and the testing in sequence. Another killer feature is the time traveling thing. So for Cypress, for every single command and test you do, It creates a snapshot, that's what it says, which you can picture it, it's like the current state of the browser. So you can time travel for every assertion and for every command you give to it. I'll demonstrate it later on, it really helps you to debug stuff, see the current state and the current view of the browser, things like that. Also in the graphical user interface version of it, because you can run it both as a GUI tool and headless. It has also a headless mode as well. It has something that it calls a command log, which allows you to go to this specific snapshot and do the time traveling feature. Some of the rest more typical features are you can do easily debugging. Of course, it has spies and stubs. You can even stub network traffic. You can use fixtures to say, go to this form and fill stuff. It also has multimedia features like it creates videos and screenshots in case you want to share them with POs or other stakeholders. It's fast and it has all the other typical stuff that you expect from it. Cypress, you can run your test with, let's say, 2 versions. First of all, there is a headless mode in order to add it to your typical CI, continuous integration and testing suite in order to run on a terminal. But it also supports, it also has a GUI app, an Electron app actually, that it opens the real browser and allows you to debug stuff, which is great when you write the test and when you debug tests. Currently, Cypress supports only Chrome and Chrome flavor browsers like Chromium and Electron, of course. It's based on Electron. They say that they are going also to support Firefox, Safari, Explorer, things like that. But officially, they don't support something officially. I think there is a guy that is done, a third-party developer has developed a Firefox extension that you can use, but it's not officially supported. This is the only drawback of Cypress compared to other tools and solutions. And I'll try to demonstrate to you a bit the actual Cypress in. So this is the. I'm currently demonstrating the headless mode of Cypress. I'm going to run 2 suites, test suites, and what life demos always fail. Starting. So. Anyway, yeah. Okay, you're going to see the graphic user interface version of it. So you install Cypress using, can you all see that? Okay. You install it using npm. And basically, when you initialize it, the application creates a Cypress folder. Here you can have features in order to fill up forms, to do this kind of stuff. This is the integration where you actually write your test. This is the folder that you spend most of your time. It has also plugins in order to do stuff like transpiling or create your own plugins. And finally, you can run your own commands, which is really neat. For example, here I'm extending Cypress itself in order to create the default to-dos, let's say. So it's pretty powerful. And the test, this is actually a test that hopefully I will run soon enough. It has all the typical things you expect before each, assertions, etc. Here is the Cypress object that I'm just saying to it, get the title of this specific page, and should equal this text. So I'm actually trying, I will run it on the graphical user interface. I don't have internet access. No, I have. So as you can see, a real browser. I'm starting a real browser. I'm doing the assertions as you can see here. And I'm testing if the page has the correct title, if it contains the grid meetup, which is somewhere in that list. And here you can see the time travel feature. I can select, this is the console, the console log, let's say, of the commands. So I can time travel wherever I want, and it gives me back the current state of the browser. So I can pick up elements on this specific time and things like that. And as you can see also, I can do stuff like resize browser. So if I go to this specific one, you will see that we are changing the viewport size. And that's it. I don't know why I cannot run the headless mode of it. Anyway, that's it. I don't know. Should I take any questions?
Well, demo effects are always demo effects, so it never works live, right? Okay, while we are setting up for the next one for Yorgos, I'd like to remind you all, if you are taking photos or pushing things out on Twitter, use our hashtags. Also post to the Minister of Testing channel. Okay. Thank you again, Yanis. We now have one from Yorgos Romanas from Agile Actors. He's going to talk to us about Zalenium. Interesting thing how to run Selenium on a grid on the cloud. It's an interesting tool. So let's see. Yes, of course, live has always failed, yeah, but no, yeah, okay. Another day, another IT failure, right, okay. A few technical problems. Hopefully they will be resolved soon. It's really going to be a pity if Yorgos cannot make his presentations. He has spent something like 2.5 hours here, rehearsing, reading his notes again, and all that stuff. Yeah, a bit too bad for him. Yeah. No. I would also like to remind you all that you have taken cards, apart from your name tags, you should also have some little cards with a number. Please keep those, we're going to have a lottery in the end. So if someone does not have a card right now, please go back and get one. Okay, on with the show.
Hi all. First of all, I would like to thank you for joining the third Ministry of Testing Meetup. I'm George Romanas, and my daily task is to simplify the QAs and devs life as I'm a software engineer and test at Agile Actors. So today we're going to talk about how to be flexible with Selenium and dockerized Selenium Grid infrastructure. First of all, we need to check what Selenium Grid is. So Selenium Grid allows you to run your tests on different machines against different browsers in parallel. Let's see the architecture of it. So we have a test pool, and through the remote web driver, it sends the test into the hub, and through the design capability, it sends in the nodes the test, so there it is executed. So you may think that this is pretty simple, but let's see. When to use Selenium Grid, you can use it to run your tests against multiple browsers, multiple versions of them, and on browsers that are running on different operating systems. And also when you want to reduce the execution time as you run your tests in parallel. But there is a big but over there, as so there are some common issues that Selenium has. And there are, one of them is to keep up with the releases with the new Selenium versions and have them in sync with the version of the browsers and the browser drivers such as Gecko driver, Chrome driver, etc. You have to spend a lot of time to maintain your own grid solutions and also try to find what caused an issue in the infrastructure. And because you and your colleagues, you don't want to end up like this when you are requesting to set up or maintain a Selenium Grid, we have an answer for you, and the answer is Zalenium. So what is Zalenium? Zalenium is a dynamic Selenium Grid based on Docker Selenium that expands during runtime. It works for Chrome and Firefox, and it works out of the box with Kubernetes. It's simple to set up. It provides you video recording, also a live preview interaction with the browser, and an online and offline dashboard that you can download and see all the recorded videos. Why do you choose Zalenium? Because Zalenium is trying to solve all the issues mentioned before from the Selenium Grid, as it's hard to maintain a stable Selenium Grid. No more wasted hours trying to solve issues in the infrastructure. It's difficult to cover all needed capabilities. One more aspect is that browser versions are based in Docker Selenium image, so you have full access on this. Access on this, and anyone can have a disposable and flexible Selenium Grid infrastructure. So how it works? First, when you run Selenium, a Selenium hub starts, and then a smart Docker Selenium hub also starts, used as a proxy that can handle common requests and create nodes on demand. It also creates a cloud proxy that you can point your test for you to use it for with the browser stack, source labs, or testing code. So when you want to run a test in a capability that Docker Selenium can support, the test goes into the Selenium hub, and then the Docker Selenium hub analyzes the test and says, yes, I can run the test. After that, in the background, a Docker Selenium container, it starts, and the Selenium hub assigns the test into that container. When the test is finished, passed or failed, you can, the container is disposed, and the video is recorded and downloaded locally. And this is the first scenario of it. The second scenario has to do when you want to point out in a cloud proxy. So at the beginning, we have again a test and a capability that Docker Selenium cannot support. For example, Windows with Internet Explorer or OS with Safari. It goes into the hub, and the hub sends it into Docker Selenium. It says I cannot run it, and then it points out in the cloud proxy where the test is assigned in the provider, the cloud testing provider that you have configured. After that, the video is downloaded from the provider locally. So, how to start the Zalenium in a couple of seconds. First of all, you need to have Docker installed on your machine, and after verifying that Docker server is up and running, you have to pull the Docker Selenium image, or you can use one of your choice. This one is depending on the browser that you want to use, the version of the browser, or the other things. You have to pull also Zalenium, the image of the Zalenium, and then run this command. As you see, I don't know if you can anyone see everything, but it's on the third bullet. If you use Selenium, Docker Selenium image that of your choice, you have to pull it. You have to insert it as a variable in that command in order to know how where to check it. Then pull your test in localhost 444 WD hub and run them. And in order to stop it, you run the command docker stop Zalenium. Also, they have one line installer and starter for OS X and Linuxes, which are those commands. So when to use Zalenium? You can use it when you are developing tests locally, when you run your tests on CI environment, while developing and you want to verify that everything is okay through a Sanity or a Smoke testing suite. And when you're releasing and you want a quick feedback about the release, if it's everything okay or not on a regression suite. And when you or your company doesn't have a big budget to spend on a cloud testing provider or on hardware. So that's it for the theoretical part. Let's jump into the action. We see a demo. So here we have, I'm trying to pull the Docker, first the Docker Selenium image and then the Docker Zalenium and image, and I run the command. It starts, here it starts. It will take some time if you haven't pulled before those images, but I have already downloaded. And here we see that two nodes are registered by default. So here it's a live preview. You can use also a URL that refreshes the browser after the time that you provide in seconds. And here is the dashboard that is created, and it's ready for your test to be recorded. So now I am running two different tests. I have used Zalando's website as they have developed it. Diego Molina and Leo Gallucci. So now a third test will come into the smart Docker Selenium, and it's already registered a new node. And when they finish, all the things are disposed. Here we can see the live interaction with the browser. Now they have finished, the tests are completed. And we will go into the dashboard to see the videos that they were recorded. So here are the tests. We see complete complete it and not pass or fail. You have to put it as a desired capability, this in order to be failed or passed. It's just completed. And then we see the version of the Chrome, the dimensions, the time zone, and we see also the logs, the Selenium logs and the browser driver logs. So that was it. Thank you very much.
While Ben is setting up for her own presentation, there's one small thing I'd like to say about us, about Ministry of Testing. Since we are now on our second season, we started last year, we're starting again this year. This year we're planning a little bit more things, not just the bi-monthly meetups, but we're also thinking that we will start to have another bi-monthly setup here where we're going to have open coffees. So we're going to have open discussions. 1 month we're going to have an open discussion, the next month we're going to have a presentation, and so on. We will keep alternating. More news about that one on our meetup page a little bit after this meetup. Okay, on with Penny.
Hey everyone, thank you for coming. My name is Penny and I'm a QA analyst at People Per Hour. For those of you who don't know People Per Hour, it's a leading online freelance marketplace. I started off in internet industry as a payments and fraud analyst. I did that for just about 4 years and then I moved to the QA space. There were a lot of similarities and I really liked that, so I thought that QA was just the right fit for me. So I'm currently doing that. Today I'm going to be talking about the beautiful but also difficult journey for moving from manual to automation testing. Okay, what is automated testing anyway? According to a definition I found on the internet, it's the management and performance of test activities, blah blah blah. Actually, test automation is the process of taking test cases that we usually run manually and convert them to be run by a machine. To put it simply, automation is power. It is power because it helps teams ensure quick releases of efficient, effective, and reliable software. In an agile world, where a sprint typically lasts about 2 weeks, there is not enough time to do all the testing manually. So the manual tests are requiring more people and more hardware. There is testing for new stories as well as regression testing. So while it makes sense to do exploratory testing, to test new features, regression tests should be automated to reduce the mundane task of repeatedly executing the same tests manually. My teams go, oh, sorry. Sorry about that. Okay. With more than 2 million active users who depend on People Per Hour for building their business and becoming financially independent, we want to make sure that they stay happy at all times and nothing is broken while they're using our site. So my team's goal regarding automation is to create an automated end-to-end test on which we will be able to test user journeys several times a day and make sure we have not broken things. More specifically, we want to create a test suite of 80 automated tests integrated with the CI process and defect tracking application by the end of this year. So we decided to explore the Automation Planet. The Automation Planet has a lot of things to offer, such as efficiency. We are expecting that efficiency will increase because automation helps teams detect errors at the early stages of software development, and improves the communication between programmers, designers, product owners. Less execution time. We will save time because we will have shorter duration of testing cycles. Quality, of course. Quality will increase due to early detection of bugs. And finally, consistency. We will get more consistent results because automated tests will run exactly the same way every time. Our strategy. We set up a strategy that will help us achieve our goals. So the first thing we had to do is to select the automation tool we were going to use. We explored the automation framework, the options we had, and concluded that our first choice should be Cypress. John? Okay. No, I had no idea that John was going to talk about Cypress. Cypress is a JavaScript end-to-end testing framework, but it's really easy and simple to set up debug. So I thought I should try. Then the second step was to learn how to use this tool. So I had to start reading and the help guides to learn how it works. Okay, write the tests and execute them. And finally manage and review the tests. So I thought that if I follow this strategy, it will take me straight to the automation plant. Not. Unfortunately, I was wrong. As you can see, several meteorites were about to hit my spacecraft several times during this trip. Yes, hi. Okay, first, it was the development time. The first problem I encountered was the long development time. Writing tests was a difficult task for me at the beginning because I was not so familiar with JavaScript. So, the next problem was that they were hard to maintain. It took me some time to become aware of certain practices that make automated tests more maintainable. So, for example, I used to put the login procedure in every test that required the user to be logged in to the site. As such, when something was changing on the login process, I had to go over all the tests and change them. Okay, so I figured out that creating an independent module would save me. And finally, broken tests. The problem here was that I was using very sensitive selectors that were subject to change. So every time a dynamic class or a CSS style changed, I ended up with a broken test. A few reasons that pushed me out of my route, I think that a few reasons that pushed me out of my route were, first of all, the lack of experience. Second, no test case foundation. Good manual test cases are blueprints of what we are doing and what we want to automate and what we don't want to automate. So in my case, there were no test cases available to build upon them. So I had to start from scratch, and that takes time, a lot of time. Then lots of new features released every 2 weeks. They didn't leave me time to experiment and learn from this process. Finally, I'm the only tester in the company, so I had to manage manual testing for 2 developer teams. So a lot of time was required for planning and manual testing. Where we are now? At the moment, we have a test suite of 23 automated tests, not integrated with the CI process and defect tracking system yet. And so, of course, things may have not gone as expected, but I believe that the greatest lessons are learned at the difficult times and from the worst mistakes. So, the lessons I've learned from this journey so far are these. First, mind the learning curve. For me, it was the most important factor in the automation equation. Always leave room to experiment, evolve, and grow. We all have deadlines to meet, projects to complete, our daily working routine to deal with, but if we want to make a change, we have to be committed and allow time. Document as you go. Nothing is more important than documenting the data and information so you can have it handy when needed. Keep your documents in one place. Don't throw knowledge to the trash can. Don't expect the unexpected. Don't have unrealistic expectations that automated tests will solve all your problems at once. It takes time, at least at the beginning. So, finally, accept the challenge. Something is better than nothing. So, don't wait to create the perfect plan. In our case, we got a bit out of our route, but this is not a failure, it's a lesson. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Gwen.
And now what comes next is to have the draw for the gifts. Petros will use the random website as usual.
While Petros is setting up, I'd like to tell you a bit of what we are drawing here, what is the lottery about. We have 2 tickets for Box Days Thessaloniki. Box Days Thessaloniki is one of the 3, let's say, major software development related conferences that happens in Greece. The other 2 are Box Days Athens and Everything Thessaloniki. Box Days Thessaloniki happens on around the end of November. If I remember correctly, it's around 19th of November. So in 2 months' time, there's plenty of time to book your tickets, book your hotels, and go, come and visit. Okay, so we reached up to 79. Up to 79. You all have your cards at home. First number is 31. Who has 31? Okay. One more. It's 54. Who has 54? Yeah, congratulations. Come out. Okay, guys, we're gonna need your emails later on. Okay. Like to welcome again Petros and Nikos.
Guys, we have pizzas, cocktails, beers. Thank you.
Thank you.